I think this is the true genius of Rian Johnson here, because you can't really critique this movie without spoiling the movie. So the things that fell flat for me have to do with, you know, big reveals and the point of the movie, which I'm not going to spoil here. This isn't going to be a spoiler video. Whatever. Let's just talk about Knives Out. So Knives Out is a murder mystery whodunit, kind of. Written and directed by Rian Johnson. Rian Johnson, you know the name. Made a name for himself with The Last Jedi, love it or hate it. There's been some talk on the internet. But for my money, he directed Looper. And I like Looper a lot. And in Knives Out, the rich leader of this family empire, Christopher Plummer, he dies, deemed a suicide. But then Daniel Craig, he's a private investigator, and he's like, I suspect foul play. His voice is kind of strange getting used to in the movie, but you do lean into it and you're like, no, actually, it's not bad. It's just weird. It's a weird voice to hear coming out of Daniel Craig. More or less, the star of the show is, you know I'm terrible with names. And actually, here's a little secret of mine. When I don't know how to pronounce someone's name, I look for an interview with them, and usually the interviewer will say the name right in front of them. And so you can take with confidence, so that's how you pronounce it. Can't find it for her. So here we go. Ana de Armas. Here's hoping. Anyhow, she's a star of the show, and I actually thought she was really good in the movie. Like, the best one in the movie. Everyone's talking about Daniel Craig. I thought she was the best. Just the movie required more from her than it did from a lot of other people, more range of emotion. She completely nailed it. Now, what I liked about this movie is the common denominator among Rian Johnson films. They all have this thing in common, or these things in common. They look great, they're shot well, they're well acted. Also, a thing Rian Johnson movies have in common, I don't think they're quite as clever as Rian Johnson thinks they are. I said it there. In the end, after the shock of this movie giving you a pretty big puzzle piece early on in the movie, I was like, well, wait, we're all right, well, let's do this. If you just kind of slip into it and let it happen, I was enjoying the ride. Until at a point, I was just kind of over the ride. It's like the first two acts of this movie, I enjoy a lot more than the last act of the movie. Because the first two acts were genuinely a new take. I wouldn't call it a whodunit. It's a different thing. It's a different kind of movie. And the movie's like, oh, another turn and another turn. It's like, and this car turns left 4 times to where it's like, oh, now you're back on track with just a basic plot again. So it kind of feels like an illusion where I'm supposed to process it differently because it was executed slightly differently. But in the end, it's the same trick. And I thought a big part of the last act mystery was kind of obvious. It's only obvious because of how Rian Johnson herds you down this path. But it's like the movie's going, all right, no peeking, but what do I got behind my back? A tripod? Because yeah, I can kind of see that a mile away. I'm not gonna say anymore because it's getting into spoiler territory at that point. Enjoyed the first 2 acts. The last act felt sloppy. I've seen this a lot in movies. A sloppy third act kind of just, that's the taste the movie leaves in your mouth. And it left me with that feeling of a good time if I were drunk. Yeah, now it's a party. To fully enjoy a whodunit, you gotta dull the senses, I guess. I feel like I'm supposed to love this movie. And really, I walked out of Knives Out going, it's okay. All right, so Knives Out. Have you seen it? What did you think about it? Whatever you thought, comment below. Let me know. And as always, if you like what you've seen here and you want to see more, click right here to say more.